Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Females made you just to trick me, trick me, trick me, trick me. 'Cause baby girl, you are so easy, baby. The only reason that I can do tonight is 'cause I know you were invited. The only reason that this dress is skin tight is 'cause I thought that you would like it. I'm only come for this.
Welcome to this episode of Jessica Javens Talk. Our guest today is a previous athlete who came from a very, very difficult childhood, who turned things around, and then he did it again. It's an incredible story of resilience, power, and rediscovery of deserving. And I cannot wait for you to listen to this. So make sure that you are listening to the end, you're sharing this episode, clicking the like button, and subscribing. Welcome, Darin Burns. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're all the way in Canada, right?
Yeah, I'm up in Moncton, New Brunswick, the East Coast.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're tuning in from Indianapolis. I live in Florida. However, I just flew in here 2 days ago, and I'm thrilled to be here and get to meet people like you. So thank you so, so much for coming in. I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and how that came about and what happened. So tell our listeners a little bit who doesn't know you yet. Who are you? And how was your life in your childhood? Let's start with that.
Okay. Well, who am I? I'm still trying to figure that out today. Yeah, I'm a football player that played in 6 consecutive decades, 47 years of playing football. I played pro in the 80s and then semi-pro right up until this year at 61, where I finished my career and retired from it. I've been a business person building homes, in the gym industry. I guess go to the very beginning of my life. I was born in 1964 by a 17-year-old mother and a 24-year-old father. So I was doomed to fail at the very beginning. um, I was abused, badly abused as a child. I've had social services come in. My father used to beat me at 1.5 years of age, locked in rooms. I went through, my mother ended up leaving when I was 5 and never returned. My brother and I were left alone in the apartment for 9 days, and social services came and found me in the kitchen baking and shitty diapers everywhere. My brother was, a year and a half, 2 years old at the time, and the police were called in, and I was taken out. And then later on, I was given uh, back to my grandmother, who then gave me back to my father, and then he decided to hire male babysitters. That ended up being pedophile. So from about 4.5 until I was 6, I was constantly raped by male babysitters.
Oh my goodness.
So that went on, and then we got out of that, and then I was in an apartment living with my father in another area, and then we would bounce around. My father would live in a place, wouldn't pay rent, get evicted a month later, and we had mattresses. We slept on the floors, and it, it was not a normal childhood for a child to go through. I was stealing food from grocery stores to eat when I was 7 years of age. And then I stayed with my grandmother for a while, and my grandfather took ill, and my grandmother decided, because they were involved in the Salvation Army, they decided to place me in the care of the Salvation Army Children's Village in London, Ontario, which was going to be great. I'd be around kids, and I went to 27 different schools by the time I hit grade 9.
27?
So, because moving around a lot. But for me, 27, yeah. In grade 2, I went to 4 schools. So your development as a child, meeting friends and doing this and that becomes very difficult, right? Because you're in and gone, you meet some friends and then they're gone, right? So I never allowed myself to connect and be close with people. I always put up guards and stuff. But while I was at the care at the Salvation Army Children's Village, there was a worker in cottage 4. I was in cottage 2. In each cottage, there's 5 cottages. Each cottage had 10 kids living in it. And he was a pedophile. And he took me to have some cigarettes. So he introduced me to smoking, and then told me that it was evil that I was doing that, and that he would tell unless I blew him, which later then, I didn't know, need to use that term, but I had to get down on my knees and perform sexual acts. Then later he started penetrating, and that lasted until I left. And I'm dealing with that now in the legal department with my lawyers and stuff. And it's kind of funny. The Salvation Army tried to deny that we were there, so they didn't have records, so they're trying to deny it. And good thing the school next door had my records with my address, and the hospital, because I broke my thumb when I was playing rugby at school. So they had my address at the Salvation Army Children's Village. And my uncle, who was a deputy mayor and very well, it's got huge credibility, wrote a letter and stuff. So now we've handed that back. So I'm still dealing with that aspect and hopefully find some closure with it. So I went through the Salvation Army, got out of there, lived with my dad and his fourth wife. And I was constantly beaten up. My dad broke my nose, he broke my jaw. Um, and then I was taken away and put into the care of Children's Aid Society. So I left and I was in that care. And while I was in there, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. Um, I never played football, but I had a lot of anger issues. And so I tried it and I did really well with it. So I was hitchhiking to go back to my group home. And this black gentleman who ended up being the captain of the Toronto Argos. So it's kind of like the story of The Blind Side, except it's the reverse.
Oh,
And this black Mercedes pulls up beside me and it's like, "Hey boy, what are you doing hitchhiking?" He was giving me crap. And I told him I had to get back to my group home. He said, "Where do you live?" Mississauga. And he was in downtown Toronto, total opposite ways. It was another 40 minutes out of his way to do that. Anyhow, he was 29 years old. And I got in his car and he drove me to my group home and dropped me off. We talked on the way there. The next day, there's a knock at my door. In the driveway was this black Mercedes. And there was Bruce Smith at my door. He was like, "You want to play football? We're gonna have to start lifting weights. Let's go."
wow.
So he introduced, I didn't have clothes to work out with, so he took me to buy some. And from that day on, he, I guess you could say, became my father.
And how
So
old were you at this point?
he, I was 14,
Wow.
14. And yeah, so, and he was a 29-year-old black guy from Brownsville, Texas, that grew up in the 50s with segregation and everything. So, helping a long hair, skinny white kid out probably would be last on the shopping list, but he took me in, and he's the first person that ever showed confidence in me, um, and the first person ever showed me unconditional love.
Wow. That is incredible. So your relationship with him grew from there and your life took a turn at this point. Would you say that?
Yeah, I started playing football, wearing his number, playing his position. Um, and he'd come to watch me play my games, and he got me involved with the ball boy with the Argos. So I was the ball boy with Eric Metcalf and Alonzo Highsmith. Both guys had stellar NFL careers. Their fathers played on the team, sorry, and I had Bruce. And so I grew up with Bruce. Bruce went into real estate, so I went into real estate. I mimicked everything that he did. He became a minister afterwards, which was really weird because his life was not the one you would say that was a minister. He was a ladies' man, and he had lots of ladies hanging on him and stuff like that. But he just all of a sudden one day just gave it up and said something spoke to him, and that was that. So I couldn't follow him in that area because I had a lot of issues with, well, let's face it, with God. Like, is there one?
That's what I wanted
If
to
there
ask
is,
you.
why would I be?
Yeah.
Yeah, would
I want to go into
being
that right now.
yeah,
Actually, I wanted
okay.
to know how did because now, although you had a person who became a father figure for you, who helped you to change your life completely, you had all of this. I can't even imagine what you went through. And as a child, I think the word trauma is not even can even describe it. How did your healing start? Like where did that happen? How did that start? Although you were rescued out of a situation perhaps and given the love that you deserved, given the encouragement and the belief that every human being deserved at this point in your life at the age of 14, how did you heal from the first 14 years of your life?
I never really. What I did was I just tried to forget about it, and for a while it was working, and I always kept myself positive in my thoughts, to try to control my mind. So I was able to build building blocks up and protect myself. But the effect that it has such, like, I think being raped in the care of the Salvation Army is probably the worst, because that's where it was supposed to be trust. I was supposed to be around Christian people,
Mhm.
and give me a place to live, and my own bed and 3 meals a day and all that kind of fun stuff. And to be raped over that really gave me a lot of trust issues with adults. When you're 4 and 5, you don't remember it as much, but
Right.
I just remember the pain that I went through more at the Salvation Army because of what had happened to me. So
Right.
it was kind of a difficult thing. And when I was at sometimes you get triggered and stuff like that. So I never thought of PTSD. I never thought of all this stuff.
I see.
And it was just that I kind of like bottled it up. And my uncle,
Mm.
said that when I was 14, he could tell that there was someone. I saw him at his place one time. He's the only family member that I stay in touch with. And he he knew that he asked me, and he knew I was hurting, and he knew that my father was abusive, and he knew that something happened in Salvation Army, but I didn't really disclose it with him because our generation, we didn't talk about it.
Yep.
But later on, I did tell him that something did happen, but I didn't get into details with it. But you learn. I have a strong mind, and that's probably what kept me from blowing my brains out. Because
Wow.
you you when I play football, you have to have a strong mental,
Yes.
at the levels of playing
Absolutely.
pro and for playing for such a long period of time. Control your mind, control your body, control your mind, control your body. That's what's been pounded into me. So I just took that as part of my therapy, I guess,
Uh-huh.
and I, excuse my language, but I knocked the shit out of everybody I played football against. I would look at him as if it was the pedophile, or I'd look at him as if it was my mother or something like that.
Oh
So,
my God.
and my father too, like, I had issues even when I was in children. A funny story. My father never told me I would never amount to anything. I'd never be good. I would never be this. I'd never be that. And I went, I was playing hockey in Brampton, and I didn't know this at the time, but I was a player, but I also played goaltender. And in goaltender, if a team older than you needs a goaltender in the last minute, you can be an affiliate player to go up.
Okay.
So I got this phone call, and they asked me to be a goaltender, and I'm a very good goaltender as well. And they said it was a sudden death hockey game, and winner goes to the playoffs. The other one, season's over, and their goalie can't make it because of the last minute. Can you play? Sure. So I got dressed, went on the ice, looked across the ice, and it was my father's hockey team he was coaching.
Whoa.
We won 6-0.
Oh.
So yeah, we won the game 6-0. Got a shutout. After the game was over with, my father,
And you
when we were
hadn't
shaking
seen him
hands,
there
wouldn't shake
for a
my hand.
while.
I was in the parking lot carrying my bag over the shoulder, about to cross through the cemetery. No, I hadn't seen him, and he just drove by me, wouldn't even look at me. So, but I beat him, so I got the W.
How did that affect you here emotionally
So,
at this
yeah,
point?
so it was kind of it was an interesting upbringing. It's well, it, it validated me, because my father always told me I would never be anything. So, my dad used to say, "Oh, you're never going to be 6 foot like me. You're never going to be 200 pounds." And he's right. I'll never be 6 foot, and I'll never be 200 pounds. I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. So I guess he was right on that point. But to beat somebody that used to beat you, but not physically, but do it in an arena filled up with people and get a shutout, 6-0 as the
Right.
goalie,
That's unbelievable. Wow.
that gave me validation.
Would you
You
say
know,
this was part of your
so
healing as well?
I never really, I never really started to heal till about 3 years ago. I was almost killed in a car crash. My buddy was driving, fell asleep behind the wheel. We rolled 8 times, and the airbag exploded beside my brain. So I suffered a severe concussion 6 weeks before the season started, and 6 broken ribs.
Oh,
And I,
okay. So let's talk about that just
all
for a
the
second.
Lego blocks, I guess you could call them, in
Dar
my brain that kind of protected me from everyone, they shattered.
Yeah, what I would like to know is, because now you're fast forwarding to a couple of years ago, and I
You
know
there?
that you had
Yeah,
an
sorry, I lost you
extraordinary
there.
career. Okay, can you hear me? I know you had an absolutely astonishing career in sports, and
Hmm.
and you
Yes, I can
started
hear
at
you
a
fine.
young
Yep.
age, yeah, and then a few decades passed. So what happened before we go to 3 years ago, which is during what, the pandemic, right after the pandemic or something like that?
Yep.
Tell us what happened with your career
Right after the pandemic. Yeah.
before the pandemic, and then what changed during the pandemic? Because I know there was another phase of your life now, older, post career, that you had to kind of, in a way, go through another phase of healing and seeing life in a different way. So go in a little more into detail about that change later on after your successful
Well,
career.
well, my career, I started, I started playing junior football in 1979 and for Tobago Argos and worked my way up. When I was 19 years old, I got tried with the Ticats in the CFL, 19 turning 20. And then I didn't make the team. Obviously, I was young at that time. And they set me back down to junior to play for the Hamilton Hurricanes. So I went down to play for them and I got sick. And I got salmonella food poisoning, lost 42 pounds in 6 weeks, almost died. My
Whoa.
stomach liner was just almost rotted through. So the team released me because they didn't feel that I could play. So that Christmas, I was alone in an apartment in Niagara Falls. I was 19, and I had a gun, and I was going to kill myself on Christmas Eve because Christmas Eve in 1977, I believe it was, that's when my dad beat me up and I was taken away, which I didn't think was the best thing in my life, but ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. But I was kicked, basically released. I didn't think I had anything. I was alone, and I decided. I told Andre the story. Being a brother, KFC. I decided my last meal was going to be KFC. If the gun wasn't going to kill me, the food would. But anyhow, I went to KFC, got myself some food, and I was going back to my attic apartment, and there was a letter in the mailbox. It was the only thing I ever got for Christmas, and it was from Burlington Braves football. And they had heard what had happened to me. It was from Coach Trimble, and Coach basically said, "I think you're a hell of a player. If you come play for us, I'll make you a great football player."
Wow.
So at that moment, I felt being wanted.
Yeah.
So I went to play for the guy, and he's still a good friend of mine today, my
Oh
coach,
my
because
gosh.
he still came and watched me play this past season, and he's 80 something years old. But I had played for him. I set the records that still stand today playing for him.
Wow.
Some people consider me the greatest defensive lineman to play in the province of Ontario. All my records still stand. I'm in the history books in the top five in the history of football, and these guys did it in 5 years. I accomplished it in 2 seasons. So, playing for Coach, and Coach taught me a lot. He became another parent in my life. He's the one that put that phrase in: control your mind, control your body, control your
Yeah.
mind, control your body, and all these other. He was always famous for lingos, and even was it 2 years ago we were having breakfast and in Hamilton before a game, and I was sitting there, my body was sore, and I said, "Yeah, I could have had a hell of a pro. I still say today I could have been a Hall of Fame pro football player, but I had 5 knee operations, and my body let me down because I pushed myself too hard at such a young age. When the time I was 22, I've been to 3 professional training camps. Usually, kids are just starting to go to pro, So I had 5 knee
Wow.
operations. I had some concussions and stuff. So it kind of pushed. I made practice rosters and I did this, but I continued to keep on playing football. But coach always has a humbling way of putting perspective on things, and I said to him, my body let me down to be a pro football player. And he stopped me and he said, looked at me, he says, no. He said, you were meant to play today.
Wow.
So looking at that was that kind of put some perspective in me, is that I have a story to tell. I can save some lives. I can help improve some
Absolutely.
lives by talking about my life and what had happened, and to be an open book and fight back. So that's why I'm taking on the Salvation Army. I offered the Salvation Army to work with me, and then they like to try to come up with something that we could mutually agree upon, that we could go out and save lives together. And they listened to my story, and then they got a lawyer. So okay, they went down the legal route versus trying to, let's put up a bit of money, let's set up a foundation, let's try to improve and help some kids, and I'll be a spokesperson for it. That's kind of the route that I wanted to go, and they kind of shut it down. So now they're going to be paying. I mean, my lawyer's got $11.5 million lawsuit against them. So hopefully I can get that and do some good with the foundation, because I don't want the money,
Absolutely.
because to me it's blood money, but I want to do something good with it. And that's
Wow.
that's what I'm trying to do with it. So yeah, so my career went on, and then I was playing, and then in 2012, I get a phone call from Bruce. Bruce usually calls me all the time. We've traveled to the Caribbean. He was just up at my place, but I hadn't heard from him for about 2 weeks. And I was wondering what's going on. And then he called me and he goes, "Darin, I got some good news and bad news. I'll never forget the day. It was December 17th. And he goes, I go, well, okay, well, what's the good news? He says, well, I had a heart attack. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you had a heart attack and you survived. Okay, great. I'm glad. But he didn't want anyone to tell me. So he wanted to tell me himself. So he tells me I've got pancreatic cancer. I've got less than 90 days.
Oh,
So I immediately flew down to be with him, spent 3 days with him, talking about expectations, um, what he wants me to do at his funeral, and all that kind of stuff. So
wow.
I went through that, and it was hard. And I helped him to his bed. I gave him a kiss and told him I loved him. And that was the last time I saw Bruce, because I said, I can't come here and watch you disintegrate. It's not what you're my Superman. I'm not going to allow that. And he didn't want me to either. But he was gone in 17 days, and he went quick, and he didn't lose any weight. He went quick, which is, I'm glad, because it would have been very hard
Less
on the family
suffering.
and everybody else. Yeah. And he was, I had to do his eulogy. So that was an amazing. I had 3 standing ovations in his eulogy. And Drake, the singer, Bruce is Drake's godfather. So he was tweeting. He says the big white guy's killing it. So it's it was I Bruce always had a crazy sense of humor, so I brought his humor into the funeral, and it worked. I
Oh,
had
oh.
4 other ministers, because him being a minister, they're all competing about who's greater at a minister, and all taking their service. And I was just getting up there telling them jokes, black jokes, and white and black jokes, and everyone's killing themselves laughing, and and referring to certain things that Bruce and I did and stuff like that. So it was a hard thing, but then I let myself go. I got into depression. I
Oh,
stopped playing football. I went from being in shape to a 47 waist. And I had a big belly on me and stuff. And then my son says to me one day in around Christmas of 2019, he says, "Dad, you look like shit. What the hell are you doing?" So I drove him to the airport to go back to school. And on the way back, I'd made that decision. I'm going to get back into the gym and start lifting weights. So I
mm.
started lifting weights. I took this picture of me that's on my Facebook where I got my fat belly and stuff like that. And a month later, I looked at the picture again. I didn't realize the date on the damn picture was the date Bruce died. There was an anniversary of his death. I was like, "You son of a bitch." I looked up at the sky. So my
Wow.
son was like, "Dad, no one has ever played in 6 consecutive decades. And because you played in the the zeros of the 2000s and the 2010-12, my legacy, this thing was going on. So this was 2020, but then COVID came. But I took it as, okay, COVID's here. It's going to give me another year to train and get ready. So
There you
that's
go.
what I did. And I went back and I led the league in sacks that year, made All-Star, and it was a great success story for me. So I decided to keep on playing, because I wanted to play till 61, which was Bruce's number, and was my number, but I
I
adopted
saw
it from
that.
Bruce.
I was like, this is
So,
amazing.
so that's why the book is called 61 Never Forgotten, and it's because I did it.
That is absolutely extraordinary. Oh my God. And now,
So
other than, of
so
course,
nobody said I could do it. Nobody said I could do it, which is probably the worst thing you could ever say to me, because when somebody tells me that, that's when I buckle down and I do it.
yeah,
So I was able to push my body through, play at 61. And then I blew up on social media. I had like 11 million views between Facebook and
yeah,
Instagram.
yeah.
And and it was truly an honor. But for me, what I was doing is I rented bowling alleys, and I took the Boys and Girls Club. I rented buses and took them bowling and bought pizza and stuff like that. I rented a movie theater and brought the kids to see the movies. I had the kids run onto the football field with me. So
That
this
is
last
Yeah.
This last 5 years, or last 5 years, I kind of played it instead of anger. I kind of played it with love in my heart, which was a
Mhm.
different approach to the game for me. And then when I had that car accident, that really changed a huge direction in how I was thinking. And, you know, I was looking for that, why am I here? And it's almost like, Bruce kind of put a pillow around me while we're jumping up and down, but it shattered my brain up enough that it just destroyed all my protection barriers. I became an emotional baby for a while because I couldn't. It's like take your file cabinet, throw it up into a windstorm, and then try to have all your files put back in. Well, that's kind of what my brain was like. So thank God I had football to work on that and train at the gym. I trained really, really hard. We got in amazing shape. My body looked great and stuff like that. For 60 years of age, I mean, I could walk. I told my son, "You and I walk around on a beach with shorts on. I guarantee you, your dad will be getting more looks than you." So, so my son's 300 pounds, 6'4". But it's just it's really gave me some purpose. And then it was like, okay, you need to talk about what happened to you because I didn't. So I wrote a book
Yeah.
with Jody, and it was the number one seller for a while, and that was my therapy. But then writing the book and then seeing my whole life was like, shit, you really need help, but because I never looked at all the stuff that happened to me, and I never really sat back and looked what I've accomplished in life.
I
And
see.
I've helped out people where I've an adopted family in the Dominican. They became my family. Their parents, I call them mom and dad.
Oh,
Brought their son to Canada, and then I got him a visa to stay here. And that was in 19. I made a deal with him. I said, when you graduate high school down there, I will bring you to Canada. Well, sure enough, he did. So I brought him to Canada. Today he's a millionaire. He's got a wife, two kids that play hockey and baseball, had two sons, and he employs 50 Canadians.
wow.
And like everyone in the Dominican, when I first went down there, you used to go to the washroom, the hole in the ground, and carry the water from the end of the street. Now you go down there, they got beautiful houses, running water. Everyone has houses, everyone has cars. The third generation now is finishing university, becoming doctors and lawyers. So that was me helping Jesus, but that would never have happened if it wasn't for Bruce. So you go to their houses in the Dominican, and there's a picture of Bruce on their walls.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible. Um, so Darin, before I ask you about the last segment, I wanted to know, for everybody out there who is not where you are right now, but they are in that dark space, in that situation that they feel that they don't have a way out, what is something that, with everything that I cannot even fathom that you went through for such a long time, what is one message that you would like to perhaps leave with these people, that might spark in them what sparked in you when you got that letter in the mail, or when he
Well,
stopped the car and asked you to give you a ride?
I've had thousands of emails and messages sent to me about people that have been abused, and one of them, a guy was going to kill himself and hang himself over his mother's grave. He was abused at a summer camp, and he couldn't cope with it. And I told him, I said, stand up for yourself. Don't turtle. Don't kill yourself. Don't let that prick get off the hook easy. Every day you walk on the planet, that guy's got to see you and look at himself. So don't do that. Find a friend, talk to that friend. And when you feel comfortable enough about talking about it, then you can seek help. Find that one person that you can confide in. I had Bruce,
Yeah,
so I was able to talk to Bruce. Find that one person that you can talk to, and then seek help after that when you're comfortable. You've got to be in a comfortable state, especially for my generation. We're men. We don't
true.
talk about things like that. Like, so what?
Yeah.
I mean, I was getting some dental work done, and the dentist said, you're going to feel some pressure. And as soon as he said that, I was just, sweat was pouring out of me because the guy that took me from behind said, you relax, you're going to feel some pressure.
Oh,
So there's triggers that kind of go on. So, but find that person to talk about. Don't give up. You know, it's emotional. I get it. It's not physical. We're not going to die from it unless we allow it to kill ourselves.
true.
Rise up, stand up, and fight back. We have to take, excuse my language, we have to take these effing pricks and put them in their place. There has to be we look at problems in society: homelessness, drug addiction, suicide, and people in jail. The one common denominator they all have: approximately 80% in all categories have been abused. So we see people on the street, we look at them differently because they're homeless. And I used to do it too, because I'm like, I've been down there and I'm standing up like this, but now I look at it differently since the car accident because they've just given up on life. Okay. And I have a saying that I've used. I said, a tree can't grow without roots. How do you expect a child to? So we need to reach out to these young kids, mentor them. We need athletes and people to go to these boys and girls clubs, because those are the places these friggin' pedophiles go to, because it's easy pickings, because
Yeah.
it's generally one parent or low income families and stuff like that. We need to get guys like Bruce to get involved in these communities after their football careers or baseball careers or soccer careers or whatever athletic careers, because kids look up to inspire these kids, give these kids hope. Um, if we can, if what happened to me by meeting Bruce, if other kids can meet more people like that, we can cut down on the homelessness. We can cut down on the suicide. We can cut down on people giving up on life.
Yep.
Make people feel wanted, make people feel having love and stuff like that. You don't have to be a parent, a blood person to love someone.
So
The
true.
first person, like I said, showed me love was a black guy from Texas that went through racism.
Any of
So,
us can do it.
that proves
Yeah.
to me that love knows no color. So,
Yeah. Of
yeah.
course. Thank you for
So
sharing that.
don't
It's
let these
incredible.
pricks get up, and we stand up.
That's right.
Well, if we want to fix society, we need people like myself and other athletes that have gone through traumatic things to stand up and say, look, I use it as fuel to get through everything. Did it work? I went through marriages like toilet paper. I did this and that. I wasn't a great father in a sense because I couldn't connect. Like when a child grows up and doesn't have a father, doesn't have a mother, how do you learn how to deal with a
Right.
woman? Which,
Right.
if I could figure that out, I'd be a billionaire. But, but it's like, how do you deal being a man? How do you deal with women? How do you deal in relationships? I can't connect with my daughters, but I can connect with my son. Why is that? you know so that's where the damages happen, and going forward, I've never laid a hand on my kids. I've never done this. I've never done any of that stuff. I broke that chain. I don't want that to happen. So from my standpoint, I've done my best. I made sure my kids had a home. I made sure my kids have had this. I've done this. I've done that. I've always tried to do what I thought was the best thing. And someone showing love by money, well, I didn't
Right.
have it when I was growing up, so you try to do it. But I always looked at being a like my son's football. I was talking about my son, because I'll compare that. My dad never saw me play football, but I've seen every game my son has played.
That's amazing.
Bruce has been my games, my uncle. So it's about what affected me growing up. And I said, geez, like I never had a graduation where my parents were there. I never had, when I won awards, I never had anybody there. I was always by myself, and it really bothered me. So I made sure that with my kids, that I was there at their things that they needed,
And
because
Darin,
that's important,
I
because
have
I
to
know
say
that as a
this.
child. So I
Yes.
learned how to parent by my hurt.
I have to say this. You transformed something horrific into something beautiful. And now you are on the move with that. Like you're constantly working on that and using your life now to do amazing, extraordinary things, such as this foundation that is forming. But also you want to be out there to reach as many people as possible so you can help. And I know that you're starting your own podcast.
Yeah,
Is that right?
that's correct. We're starting in about 3 weeks from now. Um, it's going to be an interesting one. The first two episodes with Andre. Direction will probably I'm looking to get it sponsored by Kleenex.
Wow.
The first two episodes will be, well, Andre wants to go to what he calls the Genesis side of things. So I'm flying down to Toronto and having my unrehearsed. He knows I'm coming. He knows I'm doing it. Knocking on my brother's door and sitting down and talking to him about it. I never saw my brother for about 30 years,
Wow.
because it reminded us of our hurt of growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of
So
course.
we've connected and done that. So we're going to talk for the first time, unrehearsed, nothing, about our childhood and how it affected us. So
That is incredible. Oh my
it's
gosh.
probably
Everybody
going to
needs
take,
to.
yeah. So if, if you want to see a 6'5", 300-pound guy cry, well, there you go. It'll be, like I said, it should be sponsored by Kleenex. My brother, he's, he's a big man. He's 6'3", 210 pounds. Um, and we'll both be having an emotional conversation about the abuses that we went through. How he didn't go through the sexual rape and all that stuff, but he was beaten and abused, and
Yeah,
and he was on the sidelines watching his brother go through all that. So
right.
that had a huge toll on him, and he suffered.
Absolutely.
He lived in a car for a while. He slept. He's had a really hard life to bounce out of it.
Darren, I
He didn't
wonder,
have Bruce.
yeah, let me pause here for a second. I want to say that is absolutely incredibly courageous and bold of you to open this up and to tell the world. And I know you're right talking about it, especially you started to do that with Bruce. Is important to get that out of your system so you can start mourning, you can start healing, you can start the journey um, that is ahead of you. But I want to say thank you. I know that this is going to be huge impact, and it's going to help so many people. And many who don't, like you, don't even talk about it, but they're carrying that pain inside of them. So I want to first of
And
all
that
thank you.
destroys. They don't know. They don't know how much. Like, people think if you can pop that zit, you will enjoy the relief, and that's what
Yes,
you've got to get mentally prepared for. And mine was a big boil,
yes,
but
yes.
it's starting. I'm starting to see some light at the tunnel, and with having people like Andre and that in my life, which is now helping me in other ways, and also it's therapeutic to talk to you and to talk about things. Every time
Absolutely.
I talk about Bruce, every time you talk about it, is less emotion and more thought put into it because you're working
Thank you.
through the
Thank
process.
you.
Um, but
What are your last words today, Darren, as we close the show today? What are the last words that you would like to leave us with? It's hard for me to ask a specific question because you have so much, so much. So I'll let you
well,
pick.
I don't want people to feel sorry for me because it's not what I'm looking for. I want to, like, Bruce was a man of faith. So I'll quote something in the Bible, which I hope the place doesn't burn down because I'm doing that. But faith without works is dead. So
Yeah.
I hate when Christians say, "I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to do this." Go out and do the damn work. Go help people.
Mm-hmm.
Go give some of your time. Go show kids unconditional love.
I love.
Go be a big sister, big parent, whatever. You're a grandparent. The kids have left the nest. You got some time on your hands. You've done a great job, obviously, if your kids have gone off and they're on their own success. There are kids out there that need love.
Yep.
You don't have, I don't, it doesn't have to be the same sperm cell or same egg. It can be whatever. Just go out and give. And if we want to make changes in this world, it starts with us. Forget the politicians. Let's just start doing the work that needs to be done. It starts with the kids. I won't see the changes in homelessness or jails because I'll be dead in 10, 15 years. But if I could come back in 50 years from now and look at the work that's being done, I'll guarantee you those numbers will be lower.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
we need to do it as a society because it affects all of us. It affects us if taxpayers are paying for all these programs. If you and I were married and you've never gone through abuse, I've been an abused person. Well, it does affect you because you have to deal with this nut, on a regular basis and try to understand. It affects kids that haven't been born yet. So,
Right.
we need to fix and support and give back to these kids. I tell you something. People look for tax write-offs and stuff like that. If you're looking for a write-off, don't do what I'm saying. But if you're looking to see a kid smile and see life come in their eyes because you're around, that is way more rewarding
Yes, you are
than a
absolutely
tax
right.
receipt. Just
Darren,
don't give money. Give some
yes,
love. Give some time.
yes, that is
And
priceless.
yeah,
Money can't buy that. You're totally,
I just
totally
think
right.
that's what we have to do as a community. That's no.
Yeah.
I had this kid. He was a black kid from Bruce's charity, Kings Bay Kids. And after Bruce died, I took them out bowling. I flew down, got a bus, and we went bowling. And both his parents were murdered. and he was 10, 11 years old, and he bowled a strike. And I caught a picture of him. He jumped up in the air, and his legs were kicked back, and he had this, all you can see is these white teeth on him. And that picture paid me back 1 million times to see a kid having a chance to be a kid
Absolutely. Darin,
and not looking over his shoulder whether he's going to be raped or beaten or whatever. Yep.
thank you. Thank you. And thank you for coming to the show today. This has been incredible. I know that I would probably spend days here just chatting with you because you have so much, so much. I'm privileged to have met you and for you to be here in my show. This is absolutely incredible. And I want to make sure, of course, everybody out there can be inspired to this movement of making a difference in other people's life, especially children. And I have 4 kids of myself. They're all teenagers right now. It goes to my heart. So thank you for that. I will definitely be super.
And I want to be, don't think me being shameless, but my book.
Yes.
Mm.
What's the name of your book?
Yeah, my book is, if people want to get it and read it, because it's book is called 61 Never Forgotten. You can Google it. You can look through on no books, Barnes and Noble, Indigo, Chapters, wherever, Amazon. You can pick up a copy, read it. If you're feeling sorry about yourself, read the book. If you're looking for inspiration, read the book. It talks about the shit that I've gone through, but also talks about how I changed people's lives, because I have about 15 people in that book that have been interviewed that I've impacted their lives in a positive way.
Wow.
So it's about never giving up.
Thank you.
And don't let people tell you can't do it. Just do it.
So everybody, if
all I have
you're
to say.
watching this episode, make sure that you're clicking the like button and that you're sharing this with everybody that you know, because this is something that you can do right now that can impact somebody's life and change it completely. There is hope for everybody, and we want to make sure that we're spreading the love and we're helping people to have what they actually deserve and what they came to this planet to be. So I want to thank you, Darin, for coming. You guys, make sure you pick up that book. Make sure that you follow his podcast that will be launching very, very soon. And this show is brought by the IamBeastNetwork.com and Andre the Beast Creighton. My name is Jessica, and this is Jessica Javens Talk.
Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Baby girl, you are so pretty, 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 pretty. Females made you just touching me.